Everybody, we are going to do numbers 11 through 20, and I'm going to try and make it as fast as I can because we want to keep it under a minute each. We want to find this figure. We want to find the area of the entire polygon ABCDE, which happens to be a pentagon. It includes this square and this triangle, and this happens to be a right triangle. Hopefully you know your Pythagorean triples. These are the sides of right triangles that are integers. 3, 4, and 5 makes a Pythagorean triple. If you don't know about that, it's 3 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. You can find the side yourself. If you haven't found it yet, go ahead and find the area of this polygon, this pentagon, and pause the video, find it yourself, and then come back. A square is 5 by 5, which is 25. And be careful, this is half of a rectangle. The area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height, or 3 times 4. So the area of this triangle is 1/2 times 3 times 4, which is 6. And we have 31 for the total, and we're done, and I'm sure. We move on. Now this one says, if 3 is subtracted from the square root of x, the result is 8. This is an English sentence that is actually the same as a algebraic equation. Now the big problem is it's subtracted from. That means that the 3, it's going to be minus 3. So we take the square root of x minus 3 is equal to 8. The best way to do this problem, solve this equation. Hopefully you know how to do that. Pause the video, solve the equation, you're done. That's the way you should do it. Now, if you didn't know how to solve and you're not sure, the reason they said x minus 1 instead of x is that they don't want you to be able to just substitute the numbers in and see which one works. Since these represent x minus 1, x would be 11, 25, 61, 67, and 121. Only 2 of those are perfect squares. Go ahead and circle the perfect squares, and then you should be able to find your answer. The square root of 121 is 11, minus 3 is 8, and I know it's e. Hopefully you know how to solve this. You just add 3 to both sides, you get the square root of x. I'm adding 3 to both sides, I get 11, and I square both sides. That's the opposite of taking a square root, and that is x is equal to 11 squared is 121, which of course I said is my x, and my x minus 1 is 120. I'm absolutely sure, and I move on. Now I'm a little behind in time already because you got to go a minute each, so we got to really move along. Survey reveals the data above. What fraction of the homes in the survey had exactly 1 phone? 9 out of the total number. So you're going to have to add up the number here, which is going to be 11, 26, 33. And we have 9 out of 33. Phones had exactly 1 phone, it says, and we're going to divide by 3. That's going to be 3 out of 11, and I'm not seeing it. Maybe I made a mistake on adding. 11, is that a 5? Oh, that's 18. Dang it, can't read today. 11 and 18 makes 29. Sorry about that. 36. So it's 9 out of 36, which is 1/4. I can't see very well. That's an 18. Anyway, there it is, 1/4 D, and we're moving on. Darn, getting behind in time already. The number 0.13 is a fraction between n over 100 and n plus 1 over 100. What you need to recognize, and hopefully you know, is that we read this 123 thousandths, which is between 0.12 and 0.13. Now, if you know how to read these, this is 12 hundredths, and this is 13 hundredths. Hopefully you can see that this 0.123 is between these, and so the n is the 12. And we're moving on. This question is very difficult, and it says that we have some numbers. C, D, E, and F are calculated, and we calculate the average of these numbers. And which of the following correctly orders these numbers? Well, what I decided to do was I chose some numbers, say 5, 6, 7, and 8. I could do 1, 2, 3, and 4 to make it even easier. So it doesn't matter what numbers I choose. What I want to do is I want to make these match up so that this will be true. Now, they said about the average to get you confused. Instead of doing the average, I'm going to do the sum. It just so happens that the sum of these three numbers is in the same order as the averages. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to suggest that since E and E are at the top of my list, it means that E might be one of the bigger numbers. So I'm going to pick E for the biggest number. And I also have D at the top of my list. So I'm going to pick D as my next bigger number. And then my C and maybe F at the bottom. Now what I'm going to do is see if it's true that these are in the correct order by adding them together. C, D, and E makes 9. D, E, and F. D, E, and F makes 8. E, F, and C. E, F, and C make 7. And D, C, and F make 6. These are in the correct order from greatest to least. So I know that these are my numbers. Make sure that you put them in the correct order and you choose it and move on. I'm a little behind. Here's an easy one. Which of the following could be the lengths of sides of a triangle? Two sides of a triangle have to be bigger than the third side. For example, 1, 2, and 3 cannot make a triangle because it makes a segment. This is length 2, this is length 1, and this is length 3. What has to happen is these two lengths have to be longer than the third side. So choose the smallest two and see if they're bigger. These are equal. These are equal. 3 and 6 is smaller than 10. That's not going to work. 4 and 2 is smaller than 7. That's not going to work. 7 and 8 is bigger than 9. Two sides are bigger than 1. That's called the triangle inequality. And we move on. In the xy plane, the equation y equals 2x plus 3 is perpendicular to the line. What is the value of m? They want to know, do you know that, first of all, this is standard form. We need to subtract 2x from both sides so that it's in slope-intercept form. The slope of this equation is this, of that first equation, and we want the perpendicular slope. It happens to be negative reciprocal. You need to change the sign and turn it over. Negative 2 over 1 is perpendicular to the line with the slope 1/2. It is the opposite sign, the reciprocal. So we're talking about D. If you needed to see it, here's the slope of negative 2, and here's the slope of 1/2. And you can see that they work out to be perpendicular. All right, the areas in the bottom side front of a rectangular box. Got a rectangular box here. The areas are RST square inches. Okay. What is the volume of the box? Interesting. Okay, so this is R squared. This is S squared. And this is... oh, no, it isn't. Sorry. This is T, so this is the square root of T. T, I said. This is the square root of R, and this is the square root of S. And what we want is the volume of the box. So if I multiply these things together, what's going on is you've got the areas are R, S, and T, and if you think of them in terms of what are the sides if this was squares, it's a little tricky. But this is what you're looking for. You want the square root of S times the square root of R times the square root of T, which is equal to the volume. And so it's the square root of R, S, and T, which is D. I would try maybe numbers and see if it works. That's another possibility for that one. Not absolutely sure on this one. I'm going to put a check on it. because I'm assuming that those things are going to work out that way. All right. A train is 200 meters long and was traveling at a constant rate of 20 meters per second through a tunnel. Okay, 200-meter long train, 20 meters per second through a tunnel. It took 1 minute and 1 minute 70 seconds to go through the front of the train entered the tunnel until the time the back of the train left the tunnel. What is the length of the tunnel in meters? It seems pretty easy. It took 70 seconds to go through the tunnel. The problem is that they said that when the front of the train entered the tunnel, then it goes through, and then it says the back of the train leaves the tunnel. So whichever side you want to add the train to, you still have to add the train, which is an extra 200 meters long. So it traveled the length of the tunnel plus 200 meters, and it took 70 seconds to get through this entire amount of distance. And it says, what is the length of the tunnel? So it's traveling at 20 meters per second for 70 seconds. 20 meters per second times 70 seconds means that it traveled 1,400 meters. And it seems like that might be the length of the tunnel. The problem is that the tunnel, it had to go the length of the train on top of the tunnel. Another way to think about it is that the front of the train the back of the train had to go the length of the train, the length of the tunnel. So you could add the 200 to whichever side. So it traveled actually 1,200. So B is the answer to that one. And I'm pretty sure. Number 20, last one, and I'm not sure how we're doing for time because I can't see my timer. Let's take a look at this one. I did this one several times, and I tried dividing it up in various ways. The trick here is to turn this into a rectangle right here. This gives you a rectangle, and you're looking for getting rid of this, and this in order to find the area that's left. So the area of the rectangle, find that first. This happens to be 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2. 2 by 4 is 8. And you're going to have to subtract off the area of these triangles right here. So you have to figure out how big each triangle is. This one is 1 by 4. So this area is 2. This one is 2 by 2, which would be 4, but remember, you take half for the triangle, so it's 2. This triangle has an area of 2. Leaves me with 4. This triangle is 1 by 1, so it has an area of a half. So that gives me 3.5, half, I said, for my area that's left. That's going to be B, and hopefully you were able to try them all and get them done. If I had any time left, which I apparently don't, because I went way over time, I think, I would come back to this one and try some numbers. For example, I might try, this is 25, so then the side would be 5 by 5. It's assuming that they're equal. But even if I don't assume they're equal, it should still work out to this. Hopefully you got it, and I will see you back another time. Bye.